Welcome to Lead the Way with Anna Gauker. Your guide, Anna Gauker, is on a quest of her own to find effective ways of creating change and inclusion in our communities. You have come to the right place if you believe in truth, justice, and coffee. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, this is Lead the Way, and I'm Anna Gauker. If you're enjoying the work that we're doing, make sure to find us on Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, or Apple Podcasts. Rate and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. In this episode, we are wrapping up our Restorative Justice series with Director of Restorative Justice at the YWCA in Madison, Eugenia Highland. Pay special attention to how she describes restorative justice and how she applies it in her own life. Enjoy. Eugenia.
Yes.
Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Will you tell us a bit about your job and how you got into your role?
Okay, so I work doing restorative justice, and right now I'm director of the Restorative Justice Department here at the YWCA. How I got into this role was a life journey. I've been here in the United States it's going to be, in February, it's going to be 11 years here in the United States. It's funny because I've been saying that I've been here for 11 years or 12 years for like 3 years because it just feels so long. And I just asked my sister, now that I went back home, I'm from Mexico. Now that I went back home, and I asked her, when did you, because I know that I came here the year after she got married. And then I realized that I've been only here for 10 years, but it has felt so long that, and so many things have happened that it has felt that I've been here longer. So I came here like around almost 11 years ago, and after studying, originally I'm a graphic designer, so I'm an artist, and I'm also a musician, and so I've been always connected to the art, and I've always found art as a way for medicine for me. And when coming here, I started working with youth, with Latinx youth, after I finished a master's in life science communication, and worked with around youth communication. And I also connected with activists from the MECHA organization at UW Madison. She connects artivism, and started like seeing art as a form of resistance and as a medicine on this side of the border. So I started working with youth, with Latinx youth at Centro Hispano. That was around 8 years ago, with youth who were getting municipal citations and that were participating in a program called Convida. And that's how I started working mostly with youth around healing, because that's how I see restorative justice is about. It's about healing and justice. And realizing that, which I was really impressed about, how youth, Latinx youth, 12 years old, were getting municipal tickets for things that made no sense, for things that were wrong from the adults on their side, that they didn't do anything wrong about it. Kids were getting tickets just for being kids, just doing the things that kids should be doing. And I was really I was really like surprised at the beginning about the situations of why youth of 12 years old, like me, really a recent immigrant to the context of the United States, and I haven't seen before of how youth are being criminalized just for being youth, just for being themselves, and how racialized that criminalization is, how institutional racism was playing out in the juvenile justice system and criminalizing youth of color just for being themselves, and how they were targeted, not only around ticketing, but also their experiences in schools, their experiences in, everywhere they would go, to the mall, to the store, everywhere. So that group became a space where youth could share their stories, and where young Latinx youth, where Latinx youth could share their stories, could develop their identity and embrace their identity and their cultura and who they are, became a safe space for them also to thrive within who they are, no? And which is still happening at Centro, and which is very beautiful to see the spaces that exist here in our community that allow for youth to do that, because there is nowhere else.
What was a typical citation that you had seen at that time?
Okay, I will see citations because let's say and citations that, because when I connected to the work that we're doing right now, for example, here at the YWCA, we do work in the community, restorative justice and alternative for municipal court. And again, for youth from 12 to 16 years old. So it's the same, I'm listening to the same stories that are being repeated once and once all over again. For example, youth will receive citations because they are walking home they're walking home at after the curfew hour. So if the police would see them, instead of asking them, do you need any support, where is your house, they will give them a citation. And that's something that still happens right now. And if the youth would say why are you doing this, they could also receive a disorderly conduct citation. And if they're walking crossing a path that maybe belongs to somebody else, or they're just standing on the let's say on the side of a building, they would also receive a trespassing ticket. And those are the things that I saw at that time, and those are the things that still I see happening right now to youth of color here to 12 years old here in Madison. So instead of hey, let me give you a ride home, taking them to home to their parents, and that's it, they would give them citations. And yeah, so those are just one example of how those citations that make no sense happen. And there are plenty of these.
So in your previous role at Centro Hispano, you led a support group?
Well, it was a group. It was an alternative to the court. The youth would go to court, and they would be sent to this diversion program, no? And that is also what we do. So that's how I started doing this work. And then, but because this was after court, I wanted to figure out how to prevent, this part of that for the youth to get to that part of the pipeline. So I started trying to understand what is happening that could prevent, or that is dismantling this pipeline. And that's how I learned about restorative justice. And then I was then I applied for a job here at the YWCA as a restorative justice coordinator. And I started working here. That was 7 years ago, a little bit more than 7 years ago. It's been a while. I think maybe 8 already. Terrible with counting years. But that's how I started working, doing restorative justice work with the YWCA in the schools. And lately, we started doing the work also in the community as an alternative for municipal court. Then after some years, then I kept doing the work, and then I became manager. And after several years, I applied for the director's job, and that's how I am here right now.
Amazing. In our previous episodes of the Restorative Justice series, we have spoken with the Dane County Time Bank and Briar Patch.
Yes.
They are your partners in
Yes.
the Dane County Youth
Yes.
Restorative Justice Program. How do you see the YWCA fitting in the framework of the Dane County Restorative Justice?
So we are the three of us, Briar Patch, Time Bank, and YWCA. We partner in the work that we do with restorative justice as an alternative to municipal court. So the YWCA we receive all the referrals, and someone here who is Hannah Lenzo does amazing work and does the intake, and then refers and then sends the cases, distributes the cases within the three agencies. Yes, so that's kind of like how we do the work. And then it is distributed within the different agencies. A lot of that depends on location. We used to have different models about how we would do restorative justice, but now we are all aligned and we use the circle process as the model to do restorative justice, which is disconnected from models that mirror the criminal justice system. So we want to honor the roots of the philosophy, which is indigenous knowledge, by making sure that the models that we use reflect that and embrace the healing aspect and separates it from models that replicate the criminal justice system that is retributive. Our justice system is based on retributive justice, which is a justice that hurts. No, it's retribution. If you look at retribution in the dictionary, it's about punishment, it's about vengeance, about harm. So we really want restorative justice is about disrupting the cycle of harm. So the models that we use embrace that naturally and do not replicate other models that are not aligned with restorative justice. And I think that I don't know if I answered the question. Okay.
The YWCA offers workshops in restorative justice to local leaders. Can you tell us a bit about how these workshops were designed and what they cover?
Yes. Our department has existed for around almost 9 years. And the first person who came here to lead a workshop and to train the department, we have had amazing teachers that are pioneers in doing this work and that have done this work for many years. We've had Kay Pranes here giving the first workshop. We've had Suyata Baliga. We've had Fania Davis. We've had, right now, we've had Erin Donlevy. We have many people who have come here and teachers who have helped us develop and understand and get deeper into our understanding of what restorative justice is. I would say that the person and that we really look up to, who holds the philosophy, a lot of like what we really do and what we want to do and embrace, is Fania Davis, who has led the work in Oakland Unified School District in the Bay Area. Fania Davis, who is also Angela Davis' sister, has led the work around restorative justice with a racial justice lens. She just released amazing, beautiful book called The Little Book of Race and Restorative Justice that really holds the philosophy of the work that we do. We really look up to her and her knowledge and her journey to understand and to inform the work that we do. And that's how our trainings have like been developed with different, with us also, learning a lot and then bringing this knowledge and experience together into our trainings. And so we have a series of 3-day intensive training on restorative justice. The first day we focus on circle process and indigenous roots of restorative justice. It really sets the foundation of like what we are doing, engaging in a journey of people's healing. The second day focuses on understanding power and culture, and how restorative justice is countercultural, and it aims to balance power dynamics. And the third day, we focus on healing and practices that support healing. And so those are like our 3-day journey. We give a lot of materials, a lot of reading, and it's an intense 3-day series that it doesn't end there because we provide a lot of information and experience, but it's a journey. We always say that this is not like you're done, check, you can do that. No, because this is a practice, and we need to practice in order to understand it, and it requires time.
Who attends the workshops?
We have we provide the 3-day training to mainly 2 main groups. One is a 3-day training that focuses on school setting, like educators or people who work with young people in the schools. And we have a 3-day training that focuses on a community setting, people who work with young people in the community, either in community centers or social services providers as well.
Do local employers send their staff to the workshops, or do people find the workshops posted somewhere and sign up themselves? Like, how do you reach out to these community members who are interested in learning about restorative justice?
So both. We post our trainings in our website and people find out about it. And we also have different partnerships. Like, for example, we have a long partnership with MMSD. And a part of our partnership is that we offer the training to MMSD staff and the schools and staff from the schools that we participate. And then people find out about it and they reach out to us to know when we're going to be giving the trainings focused on the school, for example. And I also big shout out to Bill Baldon, who is the manager of the schools team and the school work that we do. He's amazing. And also, we also have the same partnerships within community, because we work with the county, for example. And so we're going to be offering trainings right now to the Department of Human Services right now, the County Department of Human Services. And also big shout out to Kiana Burnett, who is the manager of the work that we do in the community. She also does amazing work. We have a beautiful team, beautiful practitioners, and very passionate about and what we do. Very passionate about youth who have beautiful connections with young people. And so that's another thing that I just want to make sure that I give a huge shout out to our team.
You also offer classes to youth. Can you talk a bit about how do those classes differ, or how are they similar to the workshops?
Yes. So I think that one of the most important pieces, and one of the most important pieces of the work that we do, is that we also offer a curriculum to support youth to become and to learn how to be circle keepers. That's part of like equalizing power dynamics, and in institutions like the school system, where the youth are the ones who facilitate and who co-facilitate the circles. So they become circle keepers, and we support them. We have a curriculum where we engage with the youth in them becoming circle keepers. So they're the ones who facilitate the circles and understand what restorative justice is about, develop their critical thinking about social justice, understands power dynamics and everything, and become activists in dismantling the school to prison pipeline and punitive responses in the spaces that they are at, and support their peers and support other peers in whatever they're struggling with, and build relationships. They are the ones who also are leading this work, the youth. So it's different in format, but we talk about very similar things, right? So the youth also go through understanding what the circle process is about. We also talk with the youth about power, about culture, and the youth also embracing practices. The curriculum that we have with young people, it's a 10-day, it's a 10 lessons curriculum that can be like given in that 10 lesson curriculum that lasts for like 1 hour each lesson. And so we provide this in the schools mostly that we have been at. And we're also looking forward into engaging more youth in the community to come and facilitate circles with other youth in our community program. Yeah.
So it's a way to reach out and find people to volunteer and be part of the YWCA program as well.
Yes, there is that opportunity as well. People can volunteer to support the circles, for example, that happen in the community, and if they want to support young people that go through the circles. The people can also volunteer in the schools in a similar way. There's always, like community and families are so welcome to engage in this process, because this is a community process, a collective rehumanizing process. So also the accountability about whatever comes out of the process is shared. So everybody has a role in it. It's not just participating because I'm like, just it's about somebody else, but it's also about you. So when you engage in circle process, you are actively participating, and you are being vulnerable, and you are sharing, and you are committing yourself also to support whatever agreements come from it.
What's the greatest lesson that you've learned doing this work?
I think that we talk a lot about it, but one of the biggest lessons that I've had in this work is that, there are so many things that I've learned, and mostly things that I have unlearned. When this is a philosophy, so in a way of being, when we understand that we are all interconnected, that there is not separation between all of us, that when we hurt too, and that as a society, and I think that the dominant society, dominant narratives have taught us that the way to teach people about not hurting other people is by hurting them. So our society, like Fania Davis says, like hurts people to teach them that hurting is wrong. So that's what our justice system is. That's how sometimes we even think that accountability should hurt, that punishment is part of the lesson, that hurting is part of understanding that you shouldn't be doing that, and that's a colonized idea, because in order to disrupt, in order, because hurt people. So if we hurt more, then we're never going to be engaging in healing. I was, I was raised. I was raised by a very disciplinary mother. No, she was. I love her, admire her deeply, and by no means, when I say this, I'm blaming her at all, because she knew what she learned, and but now that I know that punishment should need not be part of the discipline, for example, as a mother, because I have the privilege to have learned more because of all the sacrifices and all the hard work that she did. So now I have this knowledge, and now I understand that punishment doesn't work. So even in the way that I engage in my relationships, my close relationships, like my relationship with my daughter, the way that I try to engage in my relationship with my daughter's dad, couldn't be retributive, couldn't be punitive, no? So I think the biggest lesson is how do I model, also how do I live the philosophy of the work that I do in my closest relationships with my family members, and the closest relationships that are the hardest, like with my ex-husband. How do I make sure that I see people's humanity before anything else, and that I do not replicate harm when I respond to harm? And that's a challenge, and it's always a challenge, I think, as a human being. And as human beings, that's, I think, one of our biggest challenges as a humanity. How do we not hurt back, disrupt cycles of harm, and engage in a journey of healing, at the same time building justice? Fania Davis says that the restorative justice practitioner is someone who is a social justice and a racial justice warrior, and at the same time is a healer. So bringing those two things within me is one of the biggest challenges and one of the most beautiful journeys that I've ever engaged. And that also talks about healing myself and my own trauma, and engaging in that journey as well.
What do you want people to know about restorative justice?
Okay. Restorative justice is not about, one, restorative justice response indifferent to punitive responses. Punitive responses are what rule was broken, who broke that rule, and what punishment that person deserves based on a handbook. So restorative justice has nothing to do with that. So one big problem that I see in our community is how restorative justice is being tied, and in being like tied to a behavior response that has like this manual with how do you say, progressive discipline responses, right? So you cannot have these two conversations in the same package, because they are completely opposite from one another, and they're being kind of like packed together, and that has confused people in thinking that restorative justice is reactionary only, is the way that we respond after so it's tied to punishment. So when we only use restorative justice because of the way that we respond to when something happened, and that's it, and we don't use it as a way that we connect as a community, and a way that we can rehumanize each other and see each other and unpack all our biases and have difficult conversations and all that, if it's just used as a reactionary way, then restorative justice becomes part of the pipeline, and it's going to look racist. So restorative justice cannot be just reactionary. It has to be the way, it's its philosophy, understanding our interconnectedness. That's what it should be at the forefront, and it should be its own thing. And it has a racial justice lens, so it should be part of how we inform other practices that are happening some other places.
Thank you again to Eugenia Highland for sharing her wonderful perspective and experience with restorative justice. We will also have links in the show notes about Fania Davis and Angela Davis for more information. This episode was brought to you by the time and talent of Buzz Kemper and Tyler Willenbrink. I'm Anna Gauker. Until next time.